All right, we're diving into one of the biggest questions anyone can ask. What is truth? Now, that might sound kind of philosophical and out there, but trust me, how you answer that question changes everything about how you live. Right here, right now.
So let's just jump right in with a question that really gets to the heart of all the confusion out there today. Is truth something we go out and discover, or is it something we just decide for ourselves? Is it all just personal?
I mean, you hear this everywhere, don't you? Hey, you live your truth, I'll live my truth. And on the surface, it sounds amazing. It sounds so open-minded and respectful. The idea is that our own personal feelings, our own experiences, that's the ultimate authority on what's real.
But you can probably see the problem already. What happens when my truth is that the traffic light was red, but your truth is that it was green? Suddenly, one of us is just wrong, and the consequences are real. That whole idea of personal truth starts to fall apart really fast the moment it smacks into reality.
And this really gets us to the core problem of trying to build a world based on what everyone just feels. So let's take a closer look at what that world would actually be like.
Just think about the domino effect for a second. In a world where there's no such thing as the truth, well, justice isn't about what's actually right or wrong anymore. It's just about who's strong enough to enforce their will. Science stops being a search for what's real and becomes just a bunch of competing opinions. Morality? That's just personal taste, like your favorite ice cream flavor. And any sense of real meaning? Well, that becomes as unstable as our moods.
And that brings us to the perfect analogy for all this. Trying to build a worldview or a whole society on the shifting sands of personal feelings and opinions, well, you're building on something that just can't hold up. It's guaranteed to be unstable.
So if your truth is the problem, what's the alternative? We need to find some solid ground, right? So let's get really clear and define what we mean by objective truth.
The difference here is actually pretty simple, but it is so important. Subjective truth, that's all internal. It's based on how I feel, what I prefer. But objective truth, that's external. It's based on reality itself, whether I like it or not. Gravity is true, whether I'm in a good mood or a bad mood. It just is.
So this leads us to the classic, straightforward definition of truth. It's simply when our beliefs match up with the way things really are. It's not about us creating reality with our thoughts. It's about our thoughts conforming to the reality that's already there.
And here it is, the other side of our analogy. Unlike that shifting sand of personal feelings, objective truth is like a foundation of solid rock. It's something you can actually build your life on with real confidence.
Okay, but where does a foundation like that even come from? And what about some of the common pushback you hear? Let's go ahead and tackle two of the biggest objections head on. First up is the pragmatic argument. You've probably heard this one. The idea that if a belief helps you succeed or makes you feel good, then for all practical purposes, it's true, right? It just works.
But just think about that for a second. A really convincing lie might help a scam artist get rich. It works for him. But does that make it true? Of course not. It's still a lie. Usefulness and truth are just two totally different things.
Now, this one is huge today. This is the idea that the scientific method is the only way to know anything for sure. If you can't prove it in a lab, it's not really true.
But here's the catch, and it's a fascinating one. The statement, "I only trust what can be proven by science," well, that statement itself is a philosophical belief that you can't prove with science. You can't put that statement in a test tube. It's a self-destructing idea. Look, science is an absolutely incredible tool for exploring the physical world, but it has to stand on a foundation of logic and reason that it can't prove on its own. So if things like science and reason need a logical, orderly universe to even work, the next question is, where did that order come from? Well, the Christian worldview offers a really compelling answer. It says the universe isn't just some cosmic accident. It's the handiwork of a rational, intelligent, personal God. That this creator built logic and order right into the fabric of the universe. And that is what makes things like science possible in the first place. So in this view, truth isn't something we invent. It's something we discover, woven into reality by its author.
So what this all boils down to is a choice. And it isn't just some abstract philosophical game. It's a choice about how you are going to build your life. We all have to choose between a worldview that's based on reality and one that's based on relativism.
This whole conversation reminds me of this powerful story that Jesus told. He talked about two men who each decided to build a house. One built his house on solid rock, and the other, well, he built his on shifting sand.
The point of the story is incredibly simple but so profound. When the storms of life hit, and believe me, they always do, only the house built on the rock of truth is going to stand firm. The one that's built on the shifting sand of personal feelings is destined for collapse.
And so this huge, ancient question, what is truth, it ends up being intensely personal. Every single one of us is building a life, a worldview, kind of like a house for our soul. So the most important question we have to answer is this one. What foundation are you building on?